Well, hello everybody and welcome to St George's Park, just ahead of the national anthems, ahead of the second match in this weekend's tournament, the Home Nations Championship. These two traditional rivals, England and Scotland, face off. Earlier we saw Wales defeat Northern Ireland 9-3, but now the anthems for England and Scotland.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, the national anthem of England.
Lovely to see both sides and the supporters belting out the national anthems. Also so lovely to see all the young mascots that have been invited along here by the respective football and futsal associations to just add a little bit of touch and glamour to this, the main event, with all due respect to what's gone on before today. Wales eventually clicking into top gear to defeat Northern Ireland 9-3, but now England against Scotland, and two times Home Nations champions England have a nice mix of youth and experience as they begin the defence of their crown. Head coach Mike Skubala retains the core of the side that has served him well over the last couple of years, but he's also taken the opportunity to recall a couple of long-term absentees. Ben Mortlock hasn't featured for 3 years, whilst it's a full 6 years since John Curran last pulled on the Lions jersey. Skipperoni Medina earns his 48th cap, whilst at the other end of the spectrum, Jordan Deere is included for the first time. And a word for one of the absentees, Stuart Cook, a regular in the side under Skubala. He's out for the season and had surgery on his injured ACL today. We wish Stuart a very speedy recovery. Scotland in their traditional blue and white colours, and they're also without one of their key men. Skipper Scott Mollison is sidelined, having ankle reconstruction. We also send Scott our best wishes for a speedy recovery. That means Carl Ballingle can lead his country for the first time. 10 of these 14, named by head coach Scott Chaplin, are Perth-based, representing either of the two Scottish futsal powerhouses, Fair City Santos or the PYF Saltires. Each of those clubs are represented by one of the Smith brothers. Fraser and Scott put aside club rivalry for the international cause. Ahmed Alulu has played in the Scottish Football League for Alloa and Berwick, and there are debuts for James Gunn and Josh Clark. It's England against Scotland. We needn't build it up anymore. It's going to be an absolute cracker, and I'm delighted to be joined on the gantry as ever by FA Councillor Graham Dell.
Evening, Dave. Looking forward to this one for sure. I think both teams have got a fair amount of pride at stake, obviously, as you'd expect in a home nations competition, but it's going to be interesting to see in how they shape up relative to the game that we saw a bit earlier on this afternoon. It's a challenge for both of them. They don't play that regularly. There was a behind closed doors game between England and Scotland back end of last year up in Sunderland, I think it was, and it was one of those where both teams were trying to test and challenge each other to see what they had as far as development's concerned. I'm sure that both teams have got players that are involved in that fixture involved tonight, so let's see how it goes.
Be underway in a moment or two. Yeah, two really key absentees in Stuart Cook and Scott Mollison. Wish them both well. So England are going to start with an outfield five of Mark Croft, the goalkeeper, Russ Goldstein, Nathan Davis, Liam Palfreyman and skipper Rayoni Medina. Scotland begin with Ben O'Hanlon, Kyle Ballingle, Bradley Steedman, Scott Smith and Ahmed Alulu. 20 minutes each side. If you're new to futsal, just sit back and enjoy it. We'll try and explain one or two of the little nuances of the game as we go along. But this should be an absolutely terrific encounter. England overwhelming favourites, which as always in sport means the Scots will be trying their level best to turn one over the old enemy. This is the 4th edition of the Home Nations. It's done the full rounds. Cardiff hosted it first, then Edinburgh, then Newry, and we're now in the palatial 330 acres of Staffordshire countryside they call St George's Park. There's the countdown, and away we go with England in the white, attacking the goal away to our right. And straight away an early touch for most of the outfield players. Russ Goldstein, number 2, nearest to camera. Skipper Rayoni Medina, good weekend for him. This is his 48th cap. Of course, if he plays tomorrow and on Sunday, it'll be nice to bring up the half century on Sunday. There is Medina, one of the core players for London Helvetia, top of the National Futsal Series Elite League, which I'm sure we'll talk about at various points during this game with Graham. Ball out on the far side. Again, if it's a new thing to you this and you're joining us for the first time, you're very welcome. The clock stops whenever the ball goes over the sidelines, so we do get the full 20 minutes of action. And again, make a point there, as you see from that, you can lift the ball overhead high. You can lift it as high as you want, as long as it doesn't do what that did. I think just clips the roof.
Just clipped the roof there. I'm surprised that the referee just gave a straightforward kick in. We'll let him off on the first occasion in the first minute. Two
referees, if you like, on the near side, Carl Hughes from Wales, on the far side, Bart Urbanski from Northern Ireland. Gordon McCabe is the 3rd referee on the sidelines here, and Avaris Lukauskis again is our timekeeper, as he was for the earlier game. There's Goldstein. Number 5 is Nathan Davis, like goalkeeper Mark Croft, who represents Loughborough Students. 8 is Liam Palfreyman, plays his futsal in Rome, and it's a lovely ball in from the left by Palfreyman. Reading a piece of that Liam did this week, saying he's never had so many friends as when he moved to Rome to play.
I think he's been inundated by people wanting to go and visit him.
Scotland's new skipper, Kyle Ballingle. There's 2. It'll be a Scottish ball on the near side.
Dave, I'd expect England obviously to play in 3 groups of 4 for sure as the outfield players, and this will certainly be their strongest group with the more experienced players. But looking at the squad that Mike Skubala's put together, looking to have a look at some older faces perhaps that have...
There's an early opportunity here, and goalkeeper Mark Croft had to be alive and alert to the possibility of Scots getting in there on their right-hand side. It's a decent block from the stopper.
Yeah, one or two of the older faces that have been around the game for a while, but started to show their worth within the new National Futsal Series. As you said, we'll talk about that as we go through. But also some younger players, like Jordan Deere as an example, coming into the squad, showing the benefit of the talent pathway that has been put in place to try and develop the younger generation, so that we've got a bigger pool of players to select from.
There's Goldstein. Scottish defender goes to ground, but does well to get the better of Russell Goldstein, and then comes away, and Medina might have been called up for a foul there, but play allowed to go on, and that's another decent stop from Mark Croft, and might now come back for a foul. Yes, I think he will.
He'll mark the travelling foul, leave the play where it is, but mark it against England for the pullback by Rayoni Medina.
So that's the first foul committed. The relevance of that we'll touch on as the half goes on. Decent catch there by the England head coach. Had a bit of a natter with Mike Skubala this afternoon. He was here nice and early, like I was, and mentioning reasons he's brought back, as you say, some players. You're never too old in futsal. Current and Mortlock haven't been on the scene for a good long time, but their early season form has seemed fit to earn recalls.
Yeah, and that's one of the benefits of the new National Futsal Series that's in place. It allows Mike the opportunity to see all of the players on the same day in the same environment, certainly in the top tier, and allows him to contrast and compare. So it gives him a better opportunity to ascertain how players are being consistent, whether they're on form week to week or they're just peaking and troughing at different times. And I think certainly that those two players that you mentioned have benefited from that.
So England making wholesale changes. A fresh four are on. That's a little bit of an optimistic stab forward from Ahmed Alulu. His brother Yusuf is in the squad here with Scotland. He's not on the squad list for this game, not in the 14 for this game, but I'm sure we'll see him over the weekend. There are a pair of brothers in the Scottish ranks today, Fraser and Scott Smith. Number 11 making a break is Richard Ward, the much travelled Richard Ward. Almost every time we come together, he's
got a new club.
a different club.
Yeah. No, he does. And linking up quite well there with Ben Mortlock playing at York Futsal Club, and I think the two of them have already developed, and certainly watching them in training, a good understanding between each other.
Yeah, Ben had quite a nasty injury, didn't he? He was England's captain at one stage in his career, but nasty injury kept him out for quite some time. Now Scotland ringing the changes. Almost 3 minutes gone. Still England 0, Scotland 0. Yeah,
he's been around a bit, Ben. I think I gave Ben his first cap when I was the national coach, and came in and at that time was a young player. He won't thank me for saying that now, but it's great that he's stayed in the game, and I think that's something that we see, that players that do touch the game of futsal stay in it for a considerable period of time. It's not something they just flirt with and then disappear.
He's on the ball now, number 19, rolls it to his right. Here's Doug Reed, another of the really strong core of players that Skubala has used over the last couple of years.
So tactically looking at the game now, England trying to play.
There's an opportunity, Graham, and real chance here. Nice skill, nice footwork from Richard Ward. He takes it round the keeper, but from a narrow angle puts it in the side netting. Trying
to play a little bit of a tactical plan with a 4-0 formation, as we call it, and that's the players playing vertically up and down the pitch in a very narrow bandwidth, sucking the Scottish players away from their goal to create the space that England can then exploit, and Wardy very nearly did so there.
Number 4 there for Scotland, just getting a touch a moment ago, is on debut, James Gunn, Durham Palatinate. Is that how you say it?
No, I don't know. I was about to commend you on saying that, but I think you're right.
Would it be linked to the university?
It is linked to the university. Yeah. They're a new entrant, a new club, a new international futsal series for this season, and Mark Bryan, the director of sport, was very keen on making sure that they got a futsal team within the competition, and they see it something for the future for them.
If I was professional enough to have done my homework, as you came referring to, or you did in the earlier game, I might have had a look. I wonder what Palatinate, the derivative of that.
Well, I actually know that, but I can't remember it. I've let myself down there.
Very useful there, Graham.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an England ball. We'll get back to the matters in hand, and it's going to be Ben Mortlock on the near side. Nice moment anyway for the young man, Mr. Gunn. It was a Mr. Gunn who scored for Northern Ireland earlier. No relation. Here's a goal, a stunning strike. Really was a wonderful hit from Robbie Betson. Lovely hit, and England opened the scoring with just over 4 minutes gone. An absolute blur as the ball flew past Ben O'Hanlon and into the far corner. Robbie Betson makes it England 1, Scotland 0. A strike from Betson. I don't know if it was a clerical error or a late call-up, but on all the original team sheet squad lists earlier in the week. Robbie wasn't on them, so I don't quite know
not sure about that.
What happened, but he certainly sent a message.
Let's say it's a clerical error.
Well, he sent a message. I am here, folks. I am here, and I've given you something to remember me by. That was a clean hit.
Yeah, it was a great strike, and I think Mike will be happy with that, to get something on the score sheet straight away and allow them to relax a little bit and just start to try and play in a way that I know he will be preparing for January, and trying to use these games to get some consistency in play and agree the play pattern.
That's the Euro qualifiers. England in a group in Moldova against the hosts and Israel, just a 3-team group. Don't know what you packed to take to Moldova there, Graham. It won't be like one of your normal sunshine vacations. Here's Richard Ward on the left flank for England. Can he create a little bit of havoc and mischief? He forces a corner kick.
I can imagine it's about our first ever England trip, which we went to Albania, so I can imagine it without any malice against either of those two countries, but I can imagine it will be very similar. A thick coat, I would imagine, and some food.
It'd be very nice indeed. Yeah. England corner, they lead 1-0. That's a scuffed effort from Ward. Means the Scots can break with the debutant gun. This is Martin Cassells, plays for the Perth side, the Fair City Santos. They currently top the Scottish Futsal Premier League. Fair City Santos and the Saltires both in Perth. Watsell of Edinburgh, the third place side at the moment in their wake. We don't have any representatives. There's a couple from the Dundee club in the squad here. There's Conor McLaren, plays semi-professional football. So I don't know what he does when he gets called up for futsal. He probably can't play this weekend, boys.
Well, you got to remember as well in Scotland that football, amateur football and futsal are all governed by effectively different parts of the organisation. So futsal is governed by the same part of the SFA that governs semi-pro football. So it's a different setup to what we experience within England. So I'm sure they come to an agreement somewhere in the process.
Medina getting stuck in. There's Paul Freeman. Oh, he's been caught there, Liam Paul Freeman, and might have been an accidental coming together with Fraser Smith, but the man who now resides in Rome picks himself up. It's okay. There's plenty of bandages and tape and support already.
He might just be sponsored by him, Dave, by Band-Aid or somebody like that. You never know.
I do enjoy watching Paul Freeman play, actually.
And he's come on leaps and bounds since he's been playing abroad. It's made a massive difference to his game, and that's another reason why domestic competitions, to make us stronger at international, we need strong domestic competitions. And Liam and one or two of the others have gone abroad to try and find that high level of play, and it's certainly played dividends. But in an ideal world, we create something domestically that's better.
Medina sets it up for Goldstein, and that's saved. I just want to come back to something you said in the previous game. When we were talking about Northern Ireland and a similar thing, and I was saying about the players that had gone there, and you were making the point. It's important for Northern Ireland to keep a strong core of players in their own domestic league. They won't necessarily get the benefit if their players are going here, there and everywhere.
No, that's right. But again, within the Northern Ireland squad, I think there's 3, maybe 4 players that are now playing in the National Futsal Series, albeit at Tier 2. So they're getting the benefit of a higher level of play in England, perhaps, than they might have got back in Northern Ireland. But domestic competition has to reflect what you experience at international level, not so much at these domestic international games, but when you go and play against the next group up, you don't want the step to be too great.
This is Dale Robertson, who's around the Scottish
He's a big unit, as you said,
squad for a year or two, and he's getting involved a little bit there with Medina. No holds barred. 2 falls, 2 submissions, or a knockout to decide the winner. It's England v Scotland. Let's play within the rules, gents, but let's
keep it clean.
Make sure it's England versus Scotland. That's gone out off the Scottish number 14, Ryan Robb, another of the Fair City players.
I think where all of the countries this weekend will struggle come January in those Euro qualifiers is that the step that they've got to make to play against their international opponents is so great because we don't have strong domestic competitions, and the only way that you're going to compete at an international level against some of the countries that they're going to be playing against is to improve that domestic threshold so it gets closer to the expectancy when you go abroad. Otherwise you're just asking too much of the players, and that's a major step that we've made in England over the start of this last season.
In the interest of impartiality, we should also point out where Scotland are playing in January's Euro qualifiers. I'm sure Graham knows it off the top of his head, but for everybody else I'll tell you they're in Belgium, the hosts for that group, Montenegro and Armenia, so a tough group for Scotland.
Absolutely, and that's not easy at all, and I think from an education point of view for some of the listeners,
there's an opportunity here, and again it's been squandered. There's a clatter on the head of goalkeeper Mark Croft. I think he's okay, but the big number 9, Dale Robertson, certainly presenting himself as a bit of a handful for that English defence.
Yeah, absolutely. And at the point I was making, Belgium will be a relatively known quantity, but you might be thinking the other opponents that they've got, Armenia, of course, and they'll be playing against Montenegro, and the normal football mentality is say, oh, we'll beat them because we're Scotland, or we'll beat them because we're England. But in a futsal terms, they will be very much up there and amongst some of the best in the world, and certainly the best in Europe. So that's by no means an easy journey for Scotland, and I think none of the teams this weekend will have an easy group, and it's tough when it's a 3-team group as well, because you've got to make sure you're firing on all cylinders. It's much harder to get out of those 3-team groups than it is out of the 4-team group.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking about rankings a little earlier in the day, but there's another effort on the Scottish goal, just wide from Goldstein. Iran and Kazakhstan, not necessarily two nations that you'd expect to be flying high in the football world, but in futsal they're both ranked inside the FIFA top 10 list.
Yeah, they are. I mean, I would exercise a bit of caution over Kazakhstan because a lot of them have been naturalised Brazilian players that they've got. And the third
it's a lovely ball. Here's Paul Freeman. Oh, what a goal that would have been for Liam Paul Freeman. We'd have been talking about that all weekend. Brought it down on his left, swivelled and shot with the right, inches wide. That was a lovely bit of skill and only just wide.
It was very good.
It's a long throw out from O'Hanlon. That will be a Scottish ball. We've not mentioned it. Ben O'Hanlon in the Scottish goal. He's another of the Fair City Santos players. Only just recently returned to action. He just had 4 games back, having been injured in Newry in the Home Nations last year. A bad knee injury. Been out for the best part of a year. So the Home Nations a little bit of a bittersweet feeling for Ben O'Hanlon, but nonetheless he'll be delighted to be back out there representing his country again.
Of course he will, and it's good to see him. I mean, that's a long journey to come back from, but very clearly obviously set a target to be here and first choice tonight as well.
There's a Lulu back on the court for Scotland, number 15. He's the one that played for Alloa Athletic and then second half of last season for Berwick Rangers. They went out of the league, didn't they, Berwick Rangers?
They did, absolutely did.
Last year. That's
I think they're a team because they're closest to Newcastle. They have a significant number of English players, albeit playing in the Scottish League as well, or did, I should say.
Wish them well. It was always one of the pub quiz questions, wasn't it?
I don't go to pubs, Dave. Not anymore.
No, of course you don't. Of course you don't. There's Paul Freeman. Gets the ball from clever little routine, which was halted by the referee. It was almost like something you'd see out the NFL. We had a bit of a blocking situation that the referee took exception to. Scotland's ball. Just the 1 goal so far, scored by Robbie Betson for England. Just over 8 minutes of play. 2 20-minute halves if you're new to the sport. Glad to have you with us. Thanks to BBC Sport for showing all the games this weekend. The culmination will be Sunday's last 2 matches when Scotland and Northern Ireland will face each other before the 6th and final game will be England against Wales. The two sides that have won this competition. Wales winning the inaugural event in 2016, England winning in 2017 and 18, looking to make it 3 in a row here on, I'm going to say home turf, on home court.
Home surface, yeah.
It's a lovely ball for Paul Freeman. Good save from the keeper, but rammed in. Now it's hit the post, and now Paul Freeman, this time he'll score. Well, it's almost an assist to his own goal there by Liam Paul Freeman. Hit the post, came out. Richard Ward unable to execute the finish, but then it broke again to Paul Freeman, and this time the goal was gaping, and Liam Paul Freeman makes it England 2, Scotland 0.
He's got all those people over there congratulating him. They're probably asking for a free trip to Rome. Little do they know he lives in a one-bedroom flat, probably. Yeah, good bit of combination play, and it's about seizing your opportunities when they occur. And there were 2 or 3 opportunities there to get that strike on goal, but creates a little bit of space between England and Scotland now.
Paul Freeman quickly replaced Robbie Betson, who scored the first goal, number 7, back out there, just brought to his knees. Scotland trying to reduce the deficit almost immediately, and they'll have their ball deep in enemy territory over on the far side. St George's Park far from full this evening. A few more here than was present for the earlier game. Wales doing a bit of a number on Northern Ireland, who gamefully got the game back to 3-all fairly early in the second period, but then Wales found top gear. They've got 3 points, and I'm sure by now they're back in the hotel and probably tucking into their evening meal, delighted with how they turned it round. There's Doug Reed surging forward, tries to get the shot away, partially blocked by Brad Steedman.
Doug Reed, almost as many clubs as Richard Ward, I think. Between the 2 of them, they'd do pretty well.
I can only say thank you, because I thought you were going to trot out the Jack Nicklaus line there.
No,
I can only thank you for not going that low. Here's Betson. Nicely done by England, retaining possession well here.
I think what's nice to see about the England group here, and you know, they're relaxed on the ball, and I think that's something that we would be looking for all of these teams to try and develop, is a general feeling where they don't feel that they're pressured when they're in possession. And I know that we saw a bit of that with Wales in the earlier game, and it'll be quite nice to see what Scotland are like in possession as well. Maybe England will give them the ball to have a go.
There's Ward. Cut out. Scotland coming forward again. A Lulu. This is played across the face, but Mark Croft's away now. And it's a good job that didn't break to someone in blue. And now it might. And it's lifted back towards goal. And that's an ambitious effort, but it's a very decent effort from Ballingle, the Scottish captain, just over the top. Mark Croft, I think, would have got back in any case, but it was a nice bit of opportunism.
Yeah, and Ballingall's done well there. He's had the vision, he's got his head up, he's looked, he's seen that Croft's off his line, and had to have a go with that. But that demonstrates the risk factor with a goalkeeper, that, you know, you've got to make sure that if you are coming out and you're going to travel with the ball, your passing has got to be absolutely 100%, otherwise you are susceptible.
I think his pass was okay, wasn't it? And then it broke down just after that.
Just after that, yeah.
And he was scrambling back. England lead 2-0.
So I wasn't suggesting that Mark Croft can't pass the ball, of course.
Very adept at it, actually. This is... oh, there's not a hand used there. No, not according to Carl Hughes, but it's an England ball. How difficult is it for a team to come into an event like England are doing here, having been turned over in their previous 3 matches? Up, wait till the ball goes out to give you, give you an opportunity to sort of answer that.
I mean, Dave, that's a good question, and the thing that I find within all futsal players, it doesn't matter where they come from, is the mental resilience, the mental toughness. You know, you can be on top of the game for 39 minutes and you can get literally battered in the last minute and lose the game, and you've got to go back and pick yourself up from that. There is absolutely no problem, certainly for me, in the England performances in the World Cup main qualifying round. And, you know, when you go up into that next peer group, the first thing you've got to do is learn how to live with that peer group, you've got to learn how to compete against them. There is a lot of expectancy that teams will go in, and it doesn't matter who it is. You know, it could be England going into that peer group, it could be Scotland coming into this peer group as an example, but you've got to learn to compete with them first of all before you learn how to win. So for England, it's all part of the learning journey, and I think Mike is very grounded with the players about the fact that it is a learning journey, and that was the same when I was the national coach. It was the same when Pete Sturgis was the national coach. One thing that has been consistent through all of those programmes has been the case that we're here to learn. We're not the finished article. We are not going to be the finished article, and that's going to take a long period of time. And the same will apply for those that have come to the game later, like Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, that they are continual learning journeys. But you need the mental toughness in this game is incredibly high and incredibly demanding.
There's Fraser Smith for Scotland, who trailed the hosts by 2-0. England were in that recent group that Graham was talking about, 3 strong sides. Italy, who hosted that event, Belarus and Hungary.
Yep, correct. And I think Mike, by his own admission, suggests that within the first couple of minutes he'd realised that against Belarus tactically he got it wrong. He made some changes, but by which time the damage had already been done, albeit in the early part of the game. But then to go in against Italy at half-time as we did, not having conceded, was a phenomenal performance. And I remember playing Hungary when I was the national coach, and they are a very, very good and very strong futsal team, as indeed Italy and Belarus are. Belarus, in fact, one of the originators of the game, going back into the old Russian state when mini football, as they called it at that time, was prevalent. And I spent a bit of time in Belarus in my FIFA role, and seen what they've got. So there's no shame in losing those games. And for the first time that I can recall, an England team was able to compete with that peer group. Might not be able to win, but as I said, you've got to learn to compete with them before you can learn to beat them.
Fascinating stuff. Here's Russ Goldstein, England 2 to the good. Here's Liam Palfreyman, who scored the second of the goals. Goldstein had continued his run, and that's a decent stop from O'Hanlon. Needed to be made. Scotland can't really afford to concede the next goal in this match. It looked very much as if that should have been a Scotland ball, but
that's why he's the referee, Dave.
That's why he's the referee, yeah, but it did look to...
I tend to agree with you, it did. Yeah. I think the point I would make here is that England have had a couple of opportunities, and they've either snatched at the opportunity or they've not relaxed when they've got the ball in a position where it's not quite the right time to shoot and get a strike and goal and surrendered possession, and I hope they don't come to rue that as the game moves on. For me, it would be a case of trying to solidify the counter when you get into the attacking phase. Put your foot on the ball, wait for the cavalry to arrive, and then start to create and carve something out rather than just letting the shot off.
Palfreyman to Davis. Pass forward. Medina, I think, will be penalised there. The Scottish player down.
That's a yellow for me. I think that's a
Fraser Smith.
That's a slack tackle from Rayoni Medina
on the ground, and England skipper pleads his case, and perhaps because he is Rayoni Medina, the England captain, and will have said all the right things to the referee at the start, he gets a bit of a ticket off. But former England head coach Graham Dell, he called it as he saw it. Felt it should have been a yellow, but wasn't. That's 4 fouls committed by England. Worth keeping an eye on that. Concede another one, and the alarm bells will be ringing.
Yeah, 7 minutes to go, four on the clock, as you say. So just to cover that for those listeners that are coming to us for the first time, we've got a timeout now in the favour of England. So just to cover that, so every time you commit an offence of one of the penal offences where you would be punished by a direct free kick, goes onto the board. You get up to 5. Once you then get to 6, 7 and beyond, from 6 it's a 10-metre unopposed penalty, only the kicker and the goalkeeper from that 10-metre penalty mark, and that's right the way through until the end of that particular half, or the first half, and then it resets itself again for the second half. So even though England are 2 goals up, 7 minutes to go, 4 fouls on the clock, say the same as I said in the previous commentary. If I was Scotland, I would be looking to run at England and try and draw the fouls to try and get the foul count over the 5 to give them an opportunity of that 10-metre penalty and get something back in the game. The timeout, I'd imagine Mike's called it just to say, look, keep your heads, be sensible, do what you were doing in the first 6 or 7 minutes and just play the ball around and try and wear them out and tire them down a little bit.
our cameraman doing a good job there, getting right in amongst the two respective huddles there, and you can see that both head coaches were very emphatically making their point. Mike Skubala, head coach for England, and Scott Chaplin is the Scottish head coach. Both desperate to get their points across.
And that's a real skill, getting that message across in a snapshot where the players' heads are buzzing. You got 1 minute, in fact probably less than 1 minute, because the minute starts the moment that the buzzer goes. So probably in about 45 to 50 seconds, trying to get your message across and connect with every single one of your players, not just the 5 outfield players, but those that may well come on in the remaining time that's left.
It's relatively early to take one, actually, by Skubala. Is Medina on the near side. Here's Nathan Davis.
He's a player that's come on, Dave. I mean, I know we did the commentary against Wales a couple of years ago on this, and Davis was just about on the periphery then, but he's certainly a player who's grown over the last couple of years, and I'd say that about a number of the players alongside Palfreyman as well. But Nathan's one who's had some consistent performances in the last couple of years.
Of course, around about then, Max Kilman was
he
playing for
indeed.
England,
yeah.
And of course, you know, if people are wondering if futsal players can be footballers and footballers can be futsal players, Kilman's made 1 or 2 appearances for Wolverhampton Wanderers, I think, in the certainly in the Europa League this year, and once or twice on the bench in the Premier League.
Exactly right, and it doesn't matter what shape or size you are. You have the ability to play both formats of the game, whether it's football or futsal, and it's transferable from one to the other. And Max Kilman is indeed one of the success stories, one of many success stories, I have to say.
This is a game of technique and no little skill. It does help, as we were saying during the earlier game this afternoon, it does help if you're two-footed, but you don't have to be, I suppose. England ball. Palfreyman goes over to get it. The door's open there in that court. Shut that door. Popped out between matches, and it is freezing out there. Absolutely Baltic as Medina tries a snapshot, having received that short pass from Palfreyman, turned round the post by O'Hanlon.
Maybe that's a tactic to get them ready for Moldova.
There's Davis, it's blocked. Now Scotland on the break. Nice layoff, and there's an opportunity here, but goalkeeper Mark Croft as well to make himself big, spread himself, and turn that effort from Josh Clark.
Good counter from Clark, good speed, and on the wide side, but again probably needs to put his foot on it and slow the ball down and wait for the rest of his teammates to arrive.
Clark is the second Scottish debutant, and is also like the other debutant, James Gunn, a member of the Durham Palatinates side. I'm going to say it again because I like saying it. Durham.
I was going to say it earlier on, don't worry about the Palatinates, just call them Durham.
Give us a pig. Here's Goldstein to Nathan Davis. There's Palfreyman. Goldstein flat on his back in the middle of the court for a moment. Gets up quickly. That pass was just a little short. Was there a hand used there? The Scottish bench thinks so. They're no closer to it than I am, and I wasn't sure, but there was a suspicion. Sean Kitson just getting to his feet on the England bench, assistant to Mike Skubala, and of course he's also the coach for the under-21s, who had a good win earlier over the Wales development side. Right. That is the 5th foul, Graham.
Yep, so there's the 5th foul against England, as you say. So now if England concede another foul, one of the penal offences, that will be a 10-metre penalty to Scotland. And this is, you know, in a way, I'm sure they didn't go into this with a plan of committing 5 fouls this early on in the game, but it's a good training exercise. So now it's how do you manage the game to make sure that you don't get yourself in a position where you get caught, or you don't create the pressure on the opponent that gives away a free kick.
Not seen all the England players on the court yet. Jordan Deere still waiting for his debut. We've not seen John Currant out there. Matt Overton, who's the...
Currant's been on once, I think.
Overton, the joint top scorer in the National Futsal Series. And this is beautifully worked indeed, and laid on a plate for Richard Ward. And he side foots home with the goal, gaping at his mercy. Nice little dance there from Richard Ward. A little bit of the Chris Gales as England take a 3-0 lead.
I noticed nobody's gone and congratulated him for the crowd. They probably realise he lives in London.
Scotland have got to be careful now. I did say that they needed the next goal in this contest. Well, it hasn't happened, and already there looks to be a little bit of a gulf between the two sides.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, Scotland have shown a bit. You know, when they get the ball and they look to try and counter, they've certainly got some speed to counter with, but I think they're just struggling to keep hold of the ball, and that comes down to passing quality and movement linked together.
And there's been a couple of good saves as well
by
Mike Croft in the England goal. Wouldn't like to see it turn into an absolute drubbing with the impartial hat on.
I think one of the things that's impressed me...
Here's Betson into the side netting.
It's impressed me with...
I could feel your eyes glaring at me then.
Yeah. With this England group, though, is
a lovely break forward, and now an opportunity, and they have got a goal. Nicely done. Conor McLaren, the semi-pro footballer, tucks it away, and it's England 3, Scotland 1.
And a great run with McLaren. I mean, understanding when he can run with the ball as opposed to passing, as opposed to dribbling, and creating that distance and getting the ball into that position where they've got an opportunity.
Nicely done.
Absolutely.
Betson just...
There's a few of those invisible boots around today, aren't there? There's a bloke selling them outside.
Whoa!
Hey, and again.
Watch that ice out there. Mark Croft slipping over.
Sniper.
Here's Doug Reed. Just wait till you get to Moldova. Here's Betson.
You know, when we went to Albania for the very first time, the very first England game, and I slept for every night in my tracksuit and a coat. It was that cold.
Here's Ballingle, the Scottish captain. Smith loses out. Here's Mark Dugan.
Oh, that's good from Scotland.
Yeah, a little bit of confidence from getting on the score sheet. It's going to be an England ball though, and Scotland have got to quickly get men back in their defensive formations.
And that's a key word in this game, Dave, confidence. Whether it's team confidence or individual confidence, that when you go a goal down, statistically it tells us that you're more likely to concede a goal. When you go a goal up, you're more likely to concede a goal because you become a little bit overconfident. But once you get the feeling that you've got the ability to score goals, then that starts to run its way through the team. And I think all of these teams need to build upon their strengths and
Reed
stagnate the weaknesses.
Shot well saved, and again it's an even better save. Really nicely done from O'Hanlon. England have got 4 of their 5 starters out there. Russell Goldstein began the game, but Doug Reed is out there at the moment. That was a really good stop from O'Hanlon.
It was, yeah. Timeout coming from Scotland.
Ballingle had just lifted it forward, hoping to release Scott Smith. There's Paul Freeman. Impeccable first touch. Nicely done from Reed. Holds off his man. It's Nathan Davis. Not sure he would necessarily want the ball there that deep, but calls for it and gets it again. Now Medina.
Yeah, they've done well to work the ball out here.
Holds off his man. A lot of work being done off the ball by both sides. Here's Reed.
So again, this is at the point that we made in the early game. This is about movement. You look at England's movement by comparison to, say, Northern Ireland or Wales, and I think that just comes from the length of time they've had on the programme and the programmes they've got in place. But it's the experience that they've got, understanding it's a play and move game. Look to displace the opponent, provide the passing lines and the opportunity to make it easier for the player with the ball.
Davis, Paul Freeman. Graham did mention that Scotland were preparing to take a timeout. They can't do it until play stops, of course.
And indeed, they're in possession of the ball.
Here's Reed. So if England keep the ball, they can do so for the next 2 minutes until half-time, and Scotland can't do anything about it. So.
And that's a key bit from Mike Skubala's point of view, is if he can see that's coming, or one of his members of staff have told him, getting the direction to his England players to say just keep the ball, don't give it away, because you're going to frustrate the Scottish team as far as getting their time out and getting their message across, as well as reducing the time when indeed they can make an impact on the game. So another bit of coach brightness that you need to possess.
Well, how many passes have England put together there before Paul Freeman eventually gets the shot off, tipped away by the Scottish goalkeeper. It remains 3-1, but as it's an England ball, Graham, I beg your pardon, made the point that the timeout can't be taken because England are in possession. They've got the corner kick. Mike Skubala prowling down on the edge of his technical area. Just over a minute and a half left. And that's out. It's another England ball. This will be frustrating for Scott Chaplin. Half-time break up and coming. Effort from Davis, charge down. It's going to be an England ball again if it goes out.
Still can't get the timeout. And trust me, from a coaching perspective, that's incredibly frustrating when you just can't get the ball to go in your favour.
Might get to the point where he considers it's no longer worth taking. Here's Goldstein. It's a nice looking ball, lovely run from Betson, just couldn't quite get it, and now there will be the opportunity for Scotland to call the timeout because it's their ball. So 60 seconds for Scott Chaplin just to try and conjure up a little bit of magic to see if his side can reduce the deficit even further. Clock's still ticking down in the minute timeout, but there's just under a minute and a half left in this first half. So the National Futsal Series, I think it's round 8 next weekend in Birmingham.
Yes, that's right, I believe, yes. I should know that really, shouldn't I? But yeah.
But it's been hailed as a success. I've followed the players on the social media and look at the various clubs' websites, and I've spoken to Mike Skubala, about it. And as you said, it makes it easier for him to go to see all the games. It's a competitive environment, highly skilled players giving up their all in front of the England head coach, and they know what's on offer.
Yeah, that was a key drive in looking to change the format of what we had, because what we had that was in place wasn't delivering against what we needed to. And by having a central venue concept where you had the best players, theoretically the best coaches, you had the best referees all in one place where everybody can learn. And it was about creating the right environment, and certainly every single bit of feedback that we've had, yes, there's been some negatives and there's some learnings to come, but certainly the project group's plan about what we wanted to deliver has started to bear fruits.
Alulu. There's Ryan Robb. Not seen too much of him. Alulu on a barnstorming run. Now he's gone down, and Scotland are wanting a foul, A, because they think it was a foul, but also because, of course, England have committed 5. So it has been given. So an opportunity here to get within 1 of England. Alulu will take it. As we've seen many times, it's not as easy.
Not as easy as it looks, is it? Yeah, not as easy as it looks.
So this is a direct shot at goal. It's going to be Ahmed Alulu. Plays his futsal in Dundee, but he's the one who plays a little bit of football for Alloa Athletic and played for Berwick Rangers last year. Here's Alulu against Mark Croft, who can leave his line. And Alulu, it's the post. Oh, he's unlucky. Then drilled back towards goal. And this time Croft can hang on to it. That's a little unlucky. Ball thrown out by Croft.
Good strike. I mean, Croft was beaten there, and he kept it low. And that's the hardest place for the goalkeeper to get to.
Within a whisker of it being 3-2, and that really would have changed the complexion, I fancy, of both team talks in the dressing rooms over the next few minutes. I think that's
I think referee
foul.
needs to be a bit careful here. That's getting a bit fiery in there.
Just the second time that Scotland have been penalised. I think Nathan Davis has caught a stray arm or something in the
chops.
Nose. Yeah, I was actually going to say chops, and I thought, no, that's not very descriptive, but you did it for me.
I did it there. Yeah.
3-1 to England. Goals from Betson, Polferman and Ward. Connor McLaren pulling one back.
And I think going into half-time, I don't think either team can be disappointed with the performance. I think England will be disappointed in conceding a goal. Scotland will be pleased that they scored a goal and disappointed that that they've conceded 3. But notwithstanding that, both teams have shown, at the levels that they're at, they've shown some good patterns and good periods of play.
30 seconds to go. Scotland will just try and work a position they can get a shot off. England, of course, will know that and try and make sure that's going to be a foul by Alulu.
He's unlucky there, Alulu, because he's created the block for Rayoni, but he's just caught him with his foot, and I don't think there was any malice in that at all. I think it was just the way that Rayoni tripped over it, but the body block was well scripted. A little
bit of experience from Medina.
Correct.
Got himself into the right position. 18, 17, 16, 15, 14, Paul Freeman. This is lifted forward. Here is Medina. Paul Freeman again inside the last 7 seconds of the first half. There is Medina. And now he's not going to try an ambitious downfield shot. He's going to be first. He led England out onto the field and he's leading them off. He's gone sprinting down the dressing room for a quick comfort break. It's half-time here at St George's Park. England, Graham, 3-1 to the good.
Yeah, and as I said, they'll be happy with that. And I said in the early stages, 6-7 minutes, they'd already had a few opportunities which they hadn't capitalised upon. I think as the game went on, 3-1 could have been 4 or 5, and that's no disrespect to Scotland. I think that's just missed opportunities from an England perspective. But they've been quite mature in their play. I think Scotland have acquitted themselves incredibly well. I'd like to see a bit more from Scotland with what they can do with the ball in, not necessarily in the long ball play, but in the shorter part of the game, and hopefully that they'll get to a position when they come out. Scott Chaplin will hopefully also see that as well and try and encourage him to play with the ball a bit more.
Could have been 3-2 right at the death.
Yeah, absolutely, it could have been. I mean, they've had the chances, and Scotland are very much in it. Although England have had a fair amount of the ball play, Scotland have created opportunities that have given them chances, albeit that they haven't capitalised on it. So that's the game. You can have all of the game and still lose it.
It's the break at St George's Park. Earlier in the day, Wales 9, Northern Ireland 3 to get this tournament up and running. Half-time in our second game here. It's England 3, Scotland 1.
You've got to stretch the legs. Good half that, mate.
against Scotland, second half on the way.
On the list as 12 though, 13. His number on the list is wrong, 13. Hey? No?
Second half underway, a couple of minutes time, Scotland making their way down the first tunnel. We're back on the West Only please welcome Scotland back out onto the goal here at St George's Park.
Well, hello everybody, welcome back to St George's Park, where we're moments away from the second half of our second futsal international of the day. England playing the old enemy Scotland. England 3-1 to the good at half-time. Earlier in the day, Wales with the first 3 points of this Home Nations weekend, defeating Northern Ireland by 9 goals to 3. It was fairly close, it was fairly tense for the Welsh side until they really kicked into gear in the last quarter of the contest. They were being held at 3-3, but as the Irish tired, they found another gear and ran away 9-3 winners. Here, England 3-1 to the good. Goals from Betson, Polfriman and Ward. Scotland pulling one back through Conor McLaren. Ahmed Alulu hit the post inside the final 30 seconds of the half from a free kick. That could have really poured the pressure on England. So 20 minutes to go. Scotland in their traditional blue and white to get us underway. England attacking the goal to our left as you look at your screens. Number 15 for Scotland, Ahmed Alulu. And away we go. Just wonder, tactically, formation-wise, if we'll have any changes out of his area. There comes O'Hanlon. I'm sure he didn't expect to be heading the ball within the first 15 seconds of the second period, but does it to good effect. Graham Dell, FA councillor, alongside me here on the gantry, wistfully looking on, and he'll be looking to see if there's any specific changes that he can see implemented by either coach. England with a set play here, Scotland with all 4 outfield players back. Here's Polfriman. There's a whipped ball in, which is headed over the top by Medina.
Yeah, probably not the best of strikes in by Liam. He won't be particularly happy with that, but from that angle he needs to just keep it low.
Long throw out from Ben O'Hanlon, the Scottish goalkeeper, we were saying earlier, picked up a nasty injury in last year's Home Nations, which was held in Newry. Appeared to strike the arm, but the old accidental, is it accidental, isn't it accidental? Either way, it's not been penalised. Nathan Davis, one of the core of players at Loughborough University. Medina goes to ground.
Looking
too
for that.
easily
Looking for that. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
For the referee.
Call it as it is, as you say.
Scottish ball. Really need to get the next goal in this contest. There's Fraser Smith, one of two brothers. Here's Alulu. Fraser and Scott Smith in the Scottish squad this evening. Paul Freeman.
Already from the first half, both teams more composed on the ball, Scotland as well as England.
There's Goldstein trying to thread a path through, unable to, ran into a blue wall.
The challenge, of course, will be to remain that discipline for the next 18 minutes of clock time.
Alulu. Here goes again. Seen him make one or two barnstorming runs, but this is a particularly promising one, which is eventually interrupted by the challenge from Paul Freeman and the save from Croft at the expense of a Scottish corner.
Well, he did that a couple of times in the first half to good effect, so I think that's something England need to be mindful of.
I think John Currant's about to come on, number 18, standing on the sidelines. Don't think we've seen him yet, and this will be a welcome return to international futsal action for him. He's been away from the scene for quite some time. There's Paul Freeman. Takes on his man and skips past Alulu and then fires it across the face, but out of the reach of Medina.
I was going to say he's raising his game.
Very good, yeah. There he comes, plays for the pro futsal side in London now. John Currant.
And he's been a beneficiary, Dave, as well of the central venue model that's been implemented by the National Futsal Series. And John's been very consistent across 6 or 7 of the rounds that I've seen. He's been one of the most consistent players across the board, and certainly that's something that's turned Mike Skubala's eye, and he deserves his call up for this weekend.
There's a long throw out to Medina, tries to help it on, and Hanlon has to do a little bit of work there. If you're watching futsal for the first time and you're particularly observant, you might have noticed that Mike Skubala and the English bench is now to the right of your screen, whereas they were to the left of our screen in the first half. I'll let Graham explain in a moment when the ball next goes out. But England have a set play. Ooh, rather you than me as Alulu gets in the way of a stinging left-footed shot from Davis. There's Paul Freeman. Medina orchestrating things from the centre of the area. Currant to Davis. Paul Freeman rolls it into Medina. Little give and go. They both knew exactly how that was going to pan out, didn't they? Paul Freeman gave it and sped into space, knowing the ball would be arriving there at the same time as him. And this is lovely from England, and it looked as if Alulu had tripped Medina there. We sort of wondered if Rayoni had gone down a little easily under a challenge from the same player a minute or two back. But
I think that's a lesson, isn't it? If you go down too early on one occasion, when it really matters, the referees are going to take a little bit more time to think about it. And I think that was a prime example there. To cover the point you said about the benches, so at half-time, the benches change, you swap, so that you're always substituting into the half that you're defending. And again, if you're looking attentively, there'll be 2 marks inside of the bench, a 5-metre distance, and it'll be 5 metres from the halfway line. Players must enter and exit the field of play through those 2 marks. If they don't, it's a straightforward yellow card.
The officials were very excited and very pedantic on getting the advertising boards and the seats in exactly the right spot before the start of play today, all with the UEFA tracksuits on. There was a real old measuring job going on about where the seats should be. It's a lovely ball downfield from Croft, finding Robbie Betson, who scored the first goal. Rolls it to the number 18, John Currant. Looking forward to seeing Matt Overton, the Bolton player, get some time on court. He's the leading scorer, or the joint leading scorer, in the National Futsal Series this season, so he's got in on merit, and that's a ball across the face that Doug Reed or Graham Dell any day of the week should have put that into the empty goal, but he just couldn't quite get there.
I scored it from up here. Yeah, Overton's turning into a good, competent player, and we took him away with the under-19s back end of last year, and he acquitted himself incredibly well. And he's one of the 4 or 5 players that are starting to move their way through from the junior age group teams into Mike's senior squad. And from his performances at Bolton, yeah, absolutely, he's demonstrating that he can live amongst the best of them.
Scotland's still in this. We've had 4 minutes or so in the second period, and things are neither better nor worse for them. 3-1 it remains, but I say they're very much in this still.
Yeah, they're doing okay.
Played rather aimlessly forward. What they won't want to do is a repeat of what Northern Ireland did against Wales. Just ran out of steam in the last 10-12 minutes of that contest, and goals were going in at an alarming regularity into the back of the Northern Ireland goal. But they'll believe here. That's out for a Scottish ball right on the halfway line. I was going to say right on the whitewash of the halfway line, but it's tape actually, and it's sticky tape.
It is, yeah.
Oh, there's a coming together. Betson and Smith colliding. I'm not sure Robbie Betson knew too much about it, but the Scottish bench felt it should have been awarded, and Scott Chaplin just urged to just calm things down a little bit.
He might be joining the Welsh and the Northern Irish player for a drink in the bar tonight with them. The third referee to officiate.
3-1 to England. It was a fiercely competitive match earlier on, as you'd expect. Nominally these are friendlies, but as I said earlier, no such thing in home nations, in pretty much in any sport. God, I wish we still had the older home nations.
Hey, that would be great. Wouldn't it be great? Wouldn't it be great? Maybe this can grow into that over time.
It's Ben Mortlock, another one returning to the national squad for the first time in a long time, first time under Skubala.
He's I think this is the right title, but he's a massage therapist on Gareth Southgate's national team group.
Mortlock rolls it to Reed. Now Betson. Mortlock, he represents York. There's Richard Ward, holding the ball up nicely. Now Mortlock. Scotland working hard. Can England find a way to open them up again? There's Betson.
England just need to be patient here, concentrate on keeping the ball, make Scotland work hard, try and wear them down a bit, and eventually they'll create an opening. But this is about the game is about, a lot of people think it's the flicks and the tricks, but it's not. It's about the quality of pass, the quality of delivery, retaining possession, not rifling a shot off where you've got very little chance of success. That's the difference between the good, the average, and the not so good teams. And I think that's a very clear message for people that are watching this either for the first time or looking to develop it for young players. Concentrate on getting players to pass the ball accurately over different and various passes, time and time again. Work on control, because those are the bits that make the best futsal players.
Here's Betson. Now Reed. That last shot on the Scottish goal, actually way over the top, but it was a direct hit on the A. Great big England banner behind the goal. We've got the flags up there. It's nice to see the hall spruced up nicely. We've not quite got the Christmas trimmings here, but where you and I went for a coffee before play started, a lovely big Christmas tree here at St George's Park, up all already.
Rivals Trafalgar Square. But you said earlier on, St George's Park's 7 years old, and 7 years ago we never had this. 7 years ago we didn't really even know across the organisation, despite the fact that we'd been playing futsal for a while, what it was. But to have this as the home of futsal is a fantastic demonstration of how important the game is across the organisation now.
Betson just inside his own half. We're past the 6-minute mark in the second half. England still leading by 3-1. All a guess about getting the win first, closely followed by performance. Mike Skubala will be looking for a level of performance. Won't just be about just taking the win with a scruffy performance. Again, wholesale changes.
Oh, you got to use these games for trialing and testing and checking with players and trying to you know, implement different things, and it's the same for all teams. But you know, these are not really games. If I'm brutally honest, Dave, these are not games that matter. The games that matter are your European or your UEFA or your FIFA qualifiers. These are games that, yeah, all right, it's great to come away with a bit of silverware, but the more satisfying thing is coming away knowing that you've tried to implement something against unknown opposition and achieving that.
FA councillor says England v Scotland doesn't matter, quote. Sorry, I'm being naughty. I know what you mean. And so
You'll be saying ex-FA councillor next.
I know what you mean.
You know, it's putting a context in the competitions and competitive games. People get hung up about results. It doesn't matter what sport it is. It doesn't matter what format of football it is, because friendly games are what they are. They're there to experiment, to trial, and to give players experience and to check and challenge your own mindset about tactical implementation and tactical strategies.
This was the score last year, by the way, when the sides met. It's a decent effort. Scotland claiming a corner kick. It was all a bit of a blur, but I just felt there was a little bit of a deflection off something, whether it was the frame of the goal or
I think it's always
one of the England players.
An indicator where you get 2 or 3 players from the same team making a claim is always an indicator that they've heard something, perhaps closer than the officials. Yeah.
Yes, England last year on their way to winning the Home Nations in Newry won all 3 matches 3-1. Not the best stat I'm going to give you today, but it's true.
I was waiting for the follow-up rationale. That's a good stat.
They did. They won them all 3-1. Would they be disappointed if they won this one 3-1?
I think that would be giving some discredit to Scotland if you said yes, but I think on the balance of play, I mean, Scotland are coming back in the game and England are allowing them to do that.
They are.
So, you know, from that point of view, yeah, they probably, if it carried on like this, I think they would be happy to win it 3-1 because I think they'll have got out of jail. But no, I think they would be expecting more from this.
Scotland hit the post right in the dying embers of the first half. A shot from Ahmed Alulu from a free kick. 3-2 then would have been a very tasty half-time score, and Scotland still trying to reduce the deficit. That shot's gone into our production unit away to our right, and let's hope we're still on air. Hope it didn't clatter into all the various screens and laptops they've got down there. All doing a fabulous job, and the cameraman as well up here on our rickety gantry. I won't say it's blowing in the wind because we're indoors, but it's a structure that I'm glad we're only on it for the course of each match. It's a long ball downfield, and Mark Croft came out and deliberately did a nutmeg on it. And there's going to be more changes. And here comes number 16, Matt Overton.
Here we go.
So he's, as I said earlier, joint top scorer with Richard Ward in the National Futsal Series, but he's played a game less than Ward as well.
So he's
just to give him a little bit more credence.
Yeah.
Nice first touch. There's Paul Freeman. Nicely worked from Liam Paul Freeman, well saved from O'Hanlon. In a good position, the Scottish goalkeeper. Now the big rampaging number 9.
That's a good
best traditions of Scottish number 9's Dale Robertson, but he loses out, and Davis, and all the sting taken out of his intended fizzer across the box.
I thought you were going to chuck Frank McAvenny in then. I saw a picture of him the other day. He doesn't look any different than what he did when he was playing.
I think he's rampaging Scottish number 9s. I'd be more Duncan Ferguson or Joe Jordan.
True. Yeah, maybe not McAvenny. I thought you were going to say Strachan as well. No, definitely not rampaging.
Oh, this is nice.
A lovely turn. Well done.
Well saved by the goalkeeper. Just got to be careful. That was overly ambitious by Robertson, but they're causing 1 or 2 problems, Scotland, and they've had a good couple of minutes in the England final third, and England are going to make a goalkeeping change now. According to our squad sheets, the backup goalkeeper is Joe Payne. We think that's Joe Payne.
That is Joe Payne.
Joe Payne listed as number 13.
Yeah.
Well, he's wearing number 20.
England they've got 3 goalkeepers in the squad for this weekend. So, but you can't, from the UEFA ruling, you can't go beyond number 20. So you're limited. So that's why he's gone in a number. I think it's a team. It's another clerical error, Dave.
It's another of the Bolton side. I think it's only his 2nd or 3rd call-up, Joe Payne. So nice to see him get a little bit of game time.
they've done well, Bolton, as well. They've had a real focus on signing English qualified players eligible to play for England. They've committed well to the intent that the National Futsal Series had about developing next generations of English players, and the work that they've done, the work that Mick Parrish has done there in focusing on that has been really
England
helpful.
can break here, Graham. There's an opportunity here for Robbie Betson. Took it on himself. He was inches wide with Polfriban in front of a gaping goal.
So you're looking now in the first half, you're now looking in the second half. We probably count 7 or 8 clear opportunities that you've had, and this is what the game is about. You've got to take those opportunities and capitalise upon them when they come. 9
minutes left here on the opening day of this year's Futsal Home Nations. Hope you're enjoying the coverage brought to you by the Football Association and by BBC Sport.
Jordan Deere making his senior international debut, and that's another player that's come through from the 19s through the 21s, 23s into the seniors, and great to see another Bolton player. I'm not from Bolton, by the way.
Yes,
just to clarify. Where is it anyway?
Okay, Paddy.
Yeah.
Is it Max and Paddy? That's their country, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's Robbie Betson. Jordan Deere, number 14, flashy.
I mean, he's a slight player. He's a, you look at him, he looks quite fragile, but boy, can he hold his own.
Marking a Lulu for a second there, and suddenly Doug Reed said, "No, hang on, he's my man." It was very much a catchweight contest.
I think it might have been Jordan Deere looked up at him and said to Doug Reed, "He's yours."
Yep. Yeah. Just about halfway through the second period here. Could be an interesting plot twist around the corner. Scotland's number 11, Josh Clark, involved for the first time in this half. There's Betson, it comes off Clark and out. Ball rolls towards the English bench. Nobody in any great hurry to throw the ball back, but it makes its way there of its own accord to Robbie Betson.
They've actually done all right, Scotland, Dave. They've surprised me. I mean, they've all right. It's not necessarily joined up or
what's
cohesive.
The whistle gone for there? Betson take it from the wrong place? Or?
Yeah, could have been. Yeah. What's he given? Yes. Yeah, they've saying Scotland have done all right. I mean, not so much cohesive and the glue pulling it all together, but there's signs of of cohesiveness that could come. But maybe that comes from having to gain so many players from one club, so there is a degree of understanding there. But yeah, I think that Scott Chaplin's got some he's got some work to do, but it's not beyond a task of achieving something. Certainly when England surrender the ball as easy as that.
Yeah, Betson.
That's a key principle in the game. One thing you can guarantee is that the opponent's going to give you the ball back at some stage. All you've got to do is make sure you've got the right pressure on in the right places to make sure that they just give it away easily.
Nearly didn't happen towards the end of the first half when Scotland had to wait about a minute and a half before they could take a timeout. And in futsal, a minute and a half is quite a long time when you're trying to get the ball. Now then, England can break. It's a real opportunity here. Richard Ward. Ward's away. Oh, that's a great covering challenge.
Great tackle.
Wonderful tackle back from Scott Smith, preventing England getting a fourth.
Just a slight delay in Robbie Betson's run, and Ward was looking for him, knowing that if he was going towards the near post and pulling the keeper in towards him with a chasing defender, he needed to lay that ball off. But that was a great tackle by Scott Smith.
Not only that, he gets the verdict as well.
Yeah.
Not so good.
Not so good there. He's peaked.
Living on his past glories.
He was good as your last touch.
England leading by 3-1. Betson, Polfriman and Ward putting clear daylight between themselves and their illustrious opponents, and a goal back from Conor McLaren. And now England can stretch their advantage again. Second of the day for Richard Ward. And look how he's gone over there. That's nice on both counts. It's nice for Richard and the England team to go over and celebrate with the youngsters, but their reaction is wonderful. That's really nice to see.
Listen, this is what it's about. It's about the next generation, and we were really keen about our fast forward futsal strategy that we launched almost a year ago, was that it would be directed towards young players and engaging them at every opportunity, and just to see that there, I mean, absolutely fantastic, and shows you that the kids are connected with the game, and that's the next generation. Important. They need role models as well.
Fair play to all the Wales and Northern Ireland players earlier. They spent quite an age signing autographs and having photographs and what have you after their match had finished before the England and Scotland boys came out and did their warm-up, and I'm sure these two teams will be doing the same as well.
Absolutely.
Expecting big crowds here tomorrow, but there are 1 or 2 tickets left, I understand, if you're in the area. We get underway.
I've got one. Do you want one?
We get underway a little earlier tomorrow at 4 o'clock. England on first tomorrow against Northern Ireland, and that's followed by Scotland and Wales, and even earlier on Sunday. It's a 1 o'clock start with Scotland facing Northern Ireland, and then England and Wales wrapping it all up. Final match of the weekend kicks off at 4 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. England ball, foul count, nothing to worry about, 1 each in the second half. We saw England commit 5 fouls relatively early on. I think there were about 7 minutes left in the first half.
That's right, yeah.
And they'd committed their 5th foul. In the end, it did give Scotland the opportunity to have a free shot at goal, and that was the one that was rattled onto the post by Lulu. 4-1. Has that taken the sting out of this brave and plucky Scottish performance?
I'm not so sure it has. I think they'll keep going. I think they've got some confidence in what they're doing, and I think they'll keep trying to cause England problems, and that's good. That's what the game's about for them.
There's Ward, who's got 2 of the goals.
He's put a shift in, actually. He's been on quite a bit, hasn't he,
yeah.
Richard Ward?
To paraphrase some of the programme notes from the England skipper Raoni Medina as well, he's sort of saying it's all well and good England turning up and playing for the shirt and giving their all and whatever. And it's what we were talking about earlier. It's time now to make their mark and go up to the next level. So
yeah,
Medina and the players certainly aware of it.
And I think as well that 1 or 2, and Raoni won't mind me saying this, I'm sure, but 1 or 2 of those in that age bracket as well realise that their days are numbered, and because the next generation that's coming through are better than the current group that are here, which is down to the investment that's been put in the game. But notwithstanding that, you play for a certain period of time, and if you keep investing, you want to try and get some outcomes from it. But the challenge that you've got, Dave, as well is as much as investment goes in across the FA from an England perspective into the game, other federations around Europe are spending a significant amount more money and developing far quicker. So actually you're spending money to stand still. You need to invest that bit more to try and catapult and move yourself on a bit. Martin
Cassell's the Scottish number 6 closed down there, and immediately he's yanked off, replaced by Ryan Robb, the number 14. England 3 goals to the good. Mortlock to Doug Reid. Nearly lost his balance and then ran into a bit of a cul-de-sac, and Scotland get the ball back with Robb.
That's one of the challenges for Doug as well. He as experienced as a player he is, there's times when he just needs to realise when he's got to release that ball. He's valuable to England with his experience that he's got, and I think he will be the first one to admit, and you can tell from the disappointment on his face there, it's give the ball away that fraction bit earlier.
But you're relying, though, on your teammates to get free
you are,
and
yeah, absolutely, and it's back to that point again. It's not the player with the ball, it's the 4 players who haven't got the ball. It's the importance of making the ball do the work, and as a consequence you've got to make it as easy for the ball carrier as you can. Creating the passing lines, blocking the opponent, making sure that you've got protection of the ball when it's passed are all the important facets of playing futsal. And again, the big challenge is if you're trying to put it into players at 16, 17, 18 plus years of age, you've lost the key opportunity to do it at that 5 to 11-year-old stage.
England's 4 out there at the moment are Davis, Withers, Matt Overton and Ben Mortlock. Joe Payne in goal, so that's not too many who saw a lot of action in the first period.
No, when you look at that mix, I mean, I wouldn't necessarily say there's no experience there, because Mortlock and Withers have got a good bit of experience about them. When you also look at, just let that one go for a moment.
There's a shot which, well, that was going well wide. Joe Payne made sure. It's parried it out the door. It'll be on its way down the street.
And Nathan Davis is, you know, he's played a fair amount of games, so that's quite an experienced four there. Maybe not the most dynamic of a four that Mike has at his disposal, but nevertheless capable. So it's a good opportunity for them as a group to demonstrate what they can do. Key thing for me would be trying to get to play Overton in as much as you can.
There's Joe Payne. Will throw the ball out towards Mortlock, and he finds Mortlock. Ben Mortlock across the area, scrambled away nicely by Josh Clark for Scotland. England ball.
Good distribution from Joe Payne.
There's another shot. Oh, goalkeeper I think was wrong-footed. Matt Overton very close there, just to tucking that one away. Real goal threat. There's Ballingle, the Scottish captain. Sends it on its way to Josh Clark, who's impressed on his debut. And Ryan Robb is going to give the ball away to Nathan Davis. Mortlock now with us. It'll be a corner. Just under 6 minutes to go. Thumbs up from the England head coach Mike Skubala there. Obviously something that would have been working on or talked about. A particular move. England corner. Back to Mortlock.
Good strike from Ben.
Scrambled away by Scotland. So tomorrow, if you enjoyed today's fair, we get underway at 4 o'clock. The first game tomorrow is England versus Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland heavily defeated in the earlier match today, going down by 9-3 to Wales, but they acquitted themselves very well for 40 of the 60 minutes. They're still trying at the end, to be fair, but just ran out of steam a little bit, and Wales were clinical the final 20 minutes or so.
I think Northern Ireland have an opportunity. They'll regroup again tonight. They'll look at the game. They'll view it back in the morning. They'll have a loosener tomorrow, I'm sure, and come back refreshed, ready to have a go. And for many of the, or most of the countries here, the big game for them will be to play England. And I'm sure that'll be no different for Northern Ireland.
You didn't correct me, did you? You realise what I said? 40 of the 60 minutes.
Yeah, I keep saying you're the professional. I wouldn't correct you.
No.
I was questioning my own mind whether I'd heard it right.
30 of the 40 minutes. And Wales came strong in the last 10. England making changes again. Jordan Deer's going to get another run out. Big thing. Pull on the Lions jersey.
And I'll tell you what, that shirt, I'd love to know where that is a year from now, and I bet it won't be far from him or his parents, that's for sure. Your first shirt, the most valuable one.
Mortlock with us. Medina back on. When you were head coach, did you make a big thing of the presentation of the first cap?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, more so with the shirts at the time, because in fact at the beginning of the programme we didn't have caps. They only came in very later. In fact, after I'd left the role. But in fact, I was away with the 19s end of last year, as I said a bit earlier in commentary, and I made a couple of cap presentations. And even from my point of view, a very proud moment to present shirts and caps to young players. But it always reminds me of a story about Michael Owen when he was at the national school at Lilleshall, and he got his first England senior international shirt.
Just watch here, Withers might be in a little bit of trouble here. He's getting a ticking off. No, he's okay.
He's okay. And he drove all the way to Lilleshall and presented his first England shirt to Keith Blunt, who was the technical director of the national school at that time, and that was his first England senior shirt. So I think players understand the value of it, but they also, many of them understand the importance of the people that got them on that journey.
Joe Payne throws the ball out, and it's helped even further on its way by Fraser Smith. Must mention, actually, I saw you on social media, and
Never.
I know enough of you to know how proud you were, because you commented on it when you went to England's recent 1000th football international at Wembley, and you made a comment that it was so great to see a page of futsal in a full England programme at Wembley.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, we wouldn't have seen that three or four years ago. I think the mileage that the game has made in a very short period of time through some fantastic work with executives across the FA, changing the dialogue in.
Timeout call by England, by the way.
Changing dialogue around the game as far as game development is concerned, and getting a major sponsor in Pokemon and other computer games are available, as they say, but coming in and investing heavily in the youth programs demonstrates that we've got the game to a different level now, and getting third-party sponsors to come in and the FA recognising that they've got an asset here in a game to sell that's never been sold before is important for game development, because all the programs that we want to implement and everything we want to do costs money, and you can't just do that on general football development money. So you need to attract the external sponsorships, and there's lots of assets that haven't been sold. But to see it in an England program, to see the commercial partners imagery up on the big screen at Wembley on that 1000th game was a bit of a lump in the throat moment. Certainly having been involved from the program right at the very beginning, to see where we've come in 17 and 18 years, but also mindful that we stagnated over a lot of that time and didn't necessarily gain the ground that we should have done. But you can't keep looking back, you've got to look forwards, and it's an incredibly proud moment every time we achieve something with futsal across the FA. Well done to all concerned. Absolutely right.
I'm glad you enjoyed your night out.
Yeah, I had a great night out, actually. It's not often I go, but you do.
Polfreman with free kick to Jordan Deere. Comes to Polfreman again, charged down. Now Deere's got some defensive duties to undertake, and that one goes out on the near side. And again, Medina just getting involved, caught his man a little late, Bradley Steedman. And the referee, I think, will have a word with them both.
That's like bumping your shopping trolley in the aisle of the supermarket, isn't it? I wasn't going to say what supermarket brand, by the way.
It's right in front of the Scottish bench. Couldn't have been a worse place for
handbags.
Medina, because there were about 8 or 9 or 10 people just... Oh, ref! Nothing more than a ticking off.
My missus is now going to say, what do you know about a shopping trolley? You never go to the supermarket.
Oh, I don't mind going on my own. Give me a list and I'll do it.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Can't go with anybody else, can
that's
you?
That's it. It's when you get a... Do you want to come? And no, because we have to pick everything up and price everything and go back to that aisle and that aisle.
What's wrong with that? Oh.
We are getting away from...
No, that's economy, that. Yeah.
We are getting away from the matter at hand a little bit.
Good
an opportunity here for Scotland. Oh, out of his area comes Joe Payne, who says no, 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 and the referee is going to bring out a yellow card. We saw something similar to that in the
that's a fair yellow. That's a fair yellow. And certainly, Dave, I think goalkeepers are protected by the sliding tackle, and there's no law that says you can't slide tackle. It's about whether or not it's a danger to the opponent. But I do think goalkeepers who come out feet first generally get overly protected. So I don't have a qualm with that. I think that was a fair yellow, and I think from his perspective, Joe Payne, upon reflection, will recognise that. But not to say that the Scottish player didn't perhaps make a start meal of it. Oh, you're giving it the other way. Oh, how's that a yellow, and then a free kick?
Unless he's given it for diving or simulation, as they say. Let's have a look what the referee does here.
Ah, yes.
So he's given it.
The yellow is against Scotland. And the free kick is to England, so he's given it for simulation. Yeah, okay. Show, what do I know about goalkeepers and sliding tackles? Nothing. You live and you learn.
You do, indeed. Yeah. Joe Payne straight away.
Well, that's a timeout. I'm going to pop down and give the referee a copy of the laws of the game.
Let us in on the secret. If you're aware, we've come full circle. 4 years of this wonderful event. Cardiff hosted it first, and then Edinburgh, then Newry. Now here, all 4 nations have held it. Will it continue? Will we have it a year from now? Are we back in Cardiff next year? Or?
Yeah, look, absolutely it will continue. I think that the important thing is that it's a valuable resource for all of the home nations. It will go back to Wales. Where they'll host it, I'm not sure. I'm sure they might tell us over lunch tomorrow, actually. But I've got a meeting with the other associations tomorrow. And the important thing is that it's a relatively low-cost tournament to cram 3 games. And the important thing for all nations here is trying to replicate 3 games in 3 days, which you may well experience. You certainly get 2 games, a rest day and a 3rd game, but you know, trying to repeat the performances back to back is really difficult for all relatively new nations. I think England have mastered it to an extent now. The other countries need to do that as well, and trying to replicate that on your own doorstep is a lot cheaper than doing it all over anywhere else across Europe.
So no timeouts left. England leading 4-1. We're into the last knockings of this, the second match on the opening day. England leading 4-1, just about 3.5 minutes left. Can they pop a cherry on top of the icing, on top of the victory cake with another goal or two, or can Scotland reduce the deficit to give them something to build on, something to take to bed tonight and look towards their clash against Wales tomorrow with more optimism?
I'll tell you what's also interesting about that question that you just asked me about the decision about whether it continues is that certainly it's the head coaches that are the ones that are pushing and having the collaboration about whether it's a benefit to them. And you know, from wearing a suit now, from a suits perspective, we're the ones really that are kind of rubber stamping it. But I think it's important to give the empowerment to the coaches to decide what's best for them for their programs. But I think collectively across the 4 home associations, they all recognise that there is value. I know that they all talk to each other and have conversations about what's going on, because a lot of them share the players across borders, and from that point of view, it's making sure that there is a good collaboration to deliver a quality product, and I think that's demonstrated already tonight.
Lulu, Dugan, it's Fraser Smith. It's cut out by Medina. Well, the statesman of this England team, but he's putting in a shift again. Ronnie Medina is chasing. Well, everything. I was going to say lost causes, but it's never a lost cause when he's out there.
No, not at all. I'm panicking now. I'm going to have to go shopping at a supermarket next week.
There's once again the referee's whistle holding play up. England penalised for the... Has it gone up? At the moment the board's showing 3 fouls each. It was taken too quickly.
Bit of maturity here as well with players, and you know, this is something, and I know Mike will look at this and he'll go back and talk to them about it, but certainly that I've always tried to instill in my time as a national coach is, and you alluded to this earlier on, that when the referee's made the decision, they're not going to change it, walk away from it, because while you're remonstrating with a referee, you're not listening to what your teammates are doing, and I think there's a little bit of a learning there for England.
Yeah, if you're looking at the ref, you're not watching that fella who's making a blindside run behind you.
Exactly.
Scottish ball, Fraser Smith, one of the Fair City Santos players. What a great name.
It is. What, Fraser Smith or Fair City Santos?
Both. This is blocked for a Scottish ball. Again, there's lots of appealing going on. And this time the youngster.
I think it's the 2 youngsters there. I think they're both having a little chat. I think Bradley Steedman's also got some words to say there. Maybe they know each other.
A little bit of chirping, never a bad thing.
Sledging.
England 3-1 up at the break. Betson, Paul Freeman and Ward really stretching the advantage.
What's also interesting here as well, I mean, Mike's mixing up his quads.
Oh, here's an opportunity. Robertson, this time round the keeper, and a little bit more composure was needed there. He was, surely he knew he was.
Keeper's done ever so well there, though. Keeper's done ever so well.
Just needed.
You know,
there's an opportunity there, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. But as the ball's travelling, and as he's gone down, but he's not gone in towards the ball, the possession that Robertson's got there is going away from him, and the further it goes away in this game, it's only going in one direction. That's how to play. So yeah, well done by Joe Payne.
You've got that devil on your shoulder saying you've gone round the keeper, therefore you should got to score.
Yeah, exactly.
Whereas you're not listening to the angel on the other side saying, just calm it down, have a touch.
Never had an angel on the other side. Yeah. I think as well that, you know, that's composure as well, isn't it, from players, about understanding how can you force the opponent to make the error, and Payne's done well there by just holding his ground. You know, force the error, they give the ball back to you. Give them nothing to pass, they'll give the ball back to you.
England ball. Dean Withers. Current. John Current, oh, opened up for him. Again, he took it first time on the right. Don't know if there was time to the ball move across onto his left and go for the other side of goal, but the opportunity
did all right there.
Opened itself up, and in a flash it had gone.
Probably the right choice, but just the wrong outcome. That's naivety from Matty Overton. It's high pressure, but not racing into the player. I mean, it's a needless foul. You're giving the ball away. You've got another one up on the clock, and that's just that little bit of composure. 4 fouls, 2 minutes to go. That's still a potential pressure point for England.
10th of the game as well. Committed 6 in the first half. That I'm sure will be too many as far as Mike Skubala's concerned. Might have been 1 or 2 more as well. It just seemed almost as if 1 or 2 were let go very early on.
And I would say against this peer group, it is far too many. You know, you can't be giving those sort of fouls away when you go into the next group up.
You'd have given another one, wouldn't you? You thought Payne
was...
would
have yeah, I thought that was a yellow. I thought it was a yellow.
Dear. Did nicely, and can Withers get there? I think that's just been overhit. So we're inside the final 2 minutes. We're up and running. 2019 Home Nations at St George's, a year in the planning or more. It's up and running. Day 1 drawing to a close, wins for Wales and seemingly wins for England. Is it as you expected, as England look for a 5th and get a 5th? Well, goalkeeper will feel probably he should have got that, but Curran has managed to find a way past Ben O'Hanlon just to pop that cherry on top of the England cake, and they lead 5-1.
Yeah, you know, to answer your question, is it shaking down? Yes, probably as I would have hoped, not necessarily as I might have expected, but I think that there's not necessarily a great amount of light. I mean, the results might show something different, but we know in futsal that you can lose a game by 4 or 5 or 6 goals, and there isn't necessarily a lot between you as far as open play is concerned. I still think England have got the work cut out. I still think England need to continue to deliver. I think Scotland have got opportunity for sure, and I think that Wales should be looking over their shoulders at Scotland, and by no means is that an easy given that Wales perhaps would come second. Northern Ireland have got a bit of work to do, but I think all of the nations should be looking to regroup from today and look to go into tomorrow with a renewed, fresh ideas about how they can beat their opponent, knowing a bit more about them from today.
That was, I know it's late on in the piece, but Jordan Deer's enthusiasm caused him to go crashing into the keeper there, and he's been penalised, so that's the 5th foul.
And you look at your last 2 fouls, Overton and Deer, the 2 youngest players on the pitch. So again, that's I know Mike will pick up on that, and that's a bit of education. It's about not letting the event, get carried away with the event, but a learning potentially through being a little bit over vociferous in what you're doing, that you've actually put yourself under pressure, put your teammates under pressure.
He presumed he'd have to go and sit down for it, and was running this way, and Skubala said, "Where are you going? Get back out there."
Come here.
30 seconds to go. Reminder, we'll be back on air just before 4 o'clock tomorrow, the BBC Sport website, for England against Northern Ireland, followed by Scotland against Wales, day 2. Could be very interesting tomorrow as the 2 fancied sides going into the weekend, England and Wales, will again look to pick up wins, but also the old goal difference might well play a part, because of course if England and Wales did win 2 games and then it was a draw on Sunday evening, might well come into goal difference, but that's a long way off. I'm sure the other 2 nations will have plenty to say about it before then.
The key thing, Dave, is plenty to play for.
Yep. And there is the full-time buzzer. Joy and enthusiasm off the park as the youngsters rush to get in a position to get their autographs. Joy and enthusiasm, I think, from plenty of the England teams. They're not overly celebrating. They've done a professional job. They've got a 5-1 victory. They're up and running. They have done better than they did last year against the same opponents, winning 3-1 in Newry. The Scots will be disappointed. Didn't create that much in the second half. They could have gone in at 3-2 down, hit the post just before the break, but struggled to find a way past initially Mark Croft and then the replacement goalkeeper Joe Payne, and so it's England who run out 5-1 winners. Good value, Graham?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's set the scene well for tomorrow across both of the games, and as I said, there's some good stuff on display. What we want to see is all of the teams now stepping up tomorrow to give us a far more entertaining set of games tomorrow. Not that these weren't entertaining, I didn't mean it like that, but on the basis that seeing a lot more futsal being played rather than perhaps five-a-side on the futsal pitch.
Many thanks to Graham Dell for his company, thanks to all the production team here, and to the Football Association and for BBC Sport for hosting this. From me, Dave Bracegirdle, I hope you've enjoyed the coverage today. Wales beating Northern Ireland by 9-3, and in the match just finished, England 5, Scotland 1. We'll be back on air tomorrow just before the 2 o'clock kickoff. I'd invite you to join us then.